Soldier was about to give up, until this little girl shows up and changes everything. Robert William Johnson walked toward the small lake in the city park of Tucson, unable to control the thoughts that had been tormenting him for months. The former sergeant of the U.S. Army carried a weight that seemed impossible to bear, and on that March afternoon, he felt he had no strength left to go on. That's when a child's voice broke the silence of the evening. A little girl with blonde hair and bright eyes ran toward him, holding out a dry branch she had picked up from the ground. "Mister, you need to get out of there. The water's too cold," shouted the child, who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Robert stopped and looked down, confused. He hadn't even noticed his feet were in the lake, soaking the military boots he still insisted on wearing every day. The icy March water had drenched his pants up to his knees. "Take the branch, come on," the girl insisted, stretching the piece of wood toward him. When he grabbed the branch and was pulled by the surprising strength of that small child, something inside him broke. Tears he hadn't shed in 2 years began rolling down his face, wrinkled with tension. The girl guided him to the shore and sat beside him on the grass as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "My grandpa gets like this sometimes," she said, with a simplicity that pierced Robert's heart. "Grandma says it's because he remembers bad things." "What's your name?" Robert asked, trying to steady his trembling voice. "Emily. And you?" "Robert?" "Why are you crying, Robert?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The girl's direct question caught Robert off guard. For years, no one had asked how he felt. Not even his ex-wife before the divorce had shown any interest in understanding what tormented him. "Sometimes we get sad, Emily. Grown-ups get sad too." "But why?" Robert looked into those curious eyes and found himself facing an innocence he had forgotten existed. How could he explain to a child that he carried the guilt of a mission gone wrong? How could he tell her that because of one of his decisions, entire families had lost their homes in a flood he might have helped prevent? "I made some mistakes at my job," he answered simply. "And now you don't work anymore?" "No, I don't work anymore." Emily picked up a small stone and tossed it into the water, watching the ripples spread. "My dad used to work too. He left and never came back." Robert's chest tightened. The casual way the girl spoke about her father's absence revealed a pain she was still too young to fully understand. "What about your mom?" "I don't have a mom. It's just me and Grandma Dorothy. We live over there," she said, pointing to a small, simple house on the other side of the park. "Grandma said my dad would come back, but it's been a long time." Robert studied the modest house the girl pointed to. It was an old building, with peeling paint and a small garden out front. Even from a distance, it was clear it was a home of modest means. "Do you come to the park often?" "Every day after school. Grandma lets me play until dark, but today I didn't come to play. I came to fish." "Fish? With what?" Emily opened her school backpack and pulled out a piece of string, a small hook, and a little can that had probably once held soda. "Mr. Jenkins from the bakery taught me. He said if I'm patient, I can catch some little fish." Robert smiled for the first time in months. The determination of this child to fish with makeshift gear touched him unexpectedly. "Have you caught anything yet?" "Not yet. But Grandma always says we shouldn't give up on things. She says my dad didn't give up on coming back, so I can't give up on fishing either." The girl's words echoed in Robert's mind like a painful refrain. Giving up was exactly what he'd been about to do when she appeared. "Emily, you shouldn't be talking to strangers. You're not a stranger. Strangers are bad people. You're not bad, just sad." The simplicity of a child's logic made Robert reflect on how children could see people so directly, without prejudice. "Still, your grandmother might worry. Grandma's making coffee. She always makes a lot because she never knows if visitors might show up. Do you want to come have coffee with us?" The invitation caught Robert completely off guard. It had been months since he'd stepped into anyone's home, since he'd talked to anyone beyond necessary check-ins at the clinic. "I don't know if that's a good idea, Emily." "Why not?" "Your grandmother doesn't know me, but I do, and I'll introduce you to her. The determination in the girl's voice was striking. Robert realized it would be hard to refuse without hurting her feelings. All right, but just for a few minutes. Emily jumped with joy and started gathering her makeshift fishing gear. Robert helped, noticing how she treated each item like a precious treasure. They walked through the city park toward the girl's house. Robert observed the neighborhood details: simple homes, quiet streets, a few people chatting on the sidewalks. It was a world apart from the empty apartment he lived in downtown. "Grandma!" Emily shouted before even opening the gate. "I brought a visitor." A woman around 70 appeared at the door, drying her hands on a dish towel. Her gray hair was tied in a simple bun, and she wore a faded floral dress that had seen better days. "Emily, how many times have I told you not to shout like that?" the grandmother scolded gently. "And who's this visitor?" "This is Robert, Grandma. He was sad at the park, so I invited him for coffee." Dorothy looked at Robert with a mix of curiosity and caution. Her experienced eyes quickly took in his military clothes, his soldier's posture, and the deep sadness in his expression. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Dorothy," Robert greeted, removing his military cap. "I apologize for intruding. Your granddaughter invited me, but I understand if it's not convenient." His polite, respectful tone eased Dorothy's initial wariness. "Emily has a habit of inviting half the world over," the older woman said with a smile, "but all visitors are welcome. Please come in." Inside, the house was even simpler than Robert had imagined. The small living room held only an old sofa, an outdated television, and a few framed photos on the walls. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. "Have a seat, please," Dorothy said, motioning to the sofa. "Emily, go wash your hands and get the plates." As the girl hurried to the kitchen, Dorothy poured coffee into mismatched but spotless cups. "Are you in the military?" Dorothy asked, noting Robert's clothes. "I was. Retired sergeant. My late husband was military too. Served for 20 years. Robert felt an immediate connection. Career soldiers shared unique experiences and values. Which unit was he in? At the same base where the Veterans Hospital in Phoenix is now. He was a corporal when he retired. Did he pass long ago? 3 years, Dorothy answered with restrained sadness. Heart attack. It was very sudden. Emily returned from the kitchen carrying a plate of homemade cookies. "Grandma makes the best cookies in the world," the girl declared proudly. "Emily exaggerates," Dorothy said, but the affection in her gaze was unmistakable. Robert took a bite of a cookie, and it was truly delicious. It had been a long time since he'd eaten something homemade, made with care. "They're really good, Dorothy," he said. "Thank you. It's my mother's recipe." The conversation flowed naturally over the next few minutes. Robert learned that Dorothy was a retired seamstress who took on occasional work to help with expenses. Emily attended a nearby public school and had always been a very sociable child. "And Emily's father?" Robert asked carefully. Dorothy's expression tightened slightly. "My son. He left on a mission 2 years ago, and we haven't heard from him since." "What kind of mission?" "He worked in humanitarian aid. He always wanted to help people. Even as a child, he was like that." Robert's stomach clenched. Humanitarian missions were exactly the kind of work he had done for years, including the one that changed his life forever. "And you never found out what happened?" "The information we got was very vague. They said there was an accident and that he was missing. But Emily still believes he'll come back." The little girl who had been playing with her doll on the floor looked up. "My dad didn't disappear. He's just helping people really far away. When he's done, he'll come back." The child's unwavering faith moved Robert deeply. She didn't understand the gravity of the situation, or maybe she simply refused to accept the possibility that her father might never return. "Do you have children, Robert?" Dorothy asked. The question hit him like a punch to the gut. "No, never did." "Married?" "I was. We divorced a year ago." Dorothy realized she'd touched on a sensitive subject and changed the topic. "Emily, show Robert your father's letters." The girl ran to her room and returned with a shoebox decorated with colorful drawings. Inside were several letters, postcards, and a few photos. "These are all the letters my dad sent before he left," Emily explained, handling the papers with great care. "He wrote one every week." Robert looked through some of the letters. The handwriting was strong yet tender. In one, Emily's father wrote that he was going on a very important mission and that when he returned, he'd take his daughter to see the ocean. "He promised we'd go together," Emily said. "I've never seen the ocean." "And you don't want to see it?" "I do, but I want to see it with my dad, like he promised." Robert placed the letters back in the box, feeling the weight of responsibility the situation carried. A child waiting for a father who might never return, and an elderly grandmother trying to keep hope alive for her granddaughter. "Well, I think I've overstayed my welcome," Robert said, standing up. "Not at all," Dorothy protested. "On the contrary, it was nice having company." "Will you come back tomorrow?" Emily asked hopefully. Robert hesitated. Part of him wanted to say yes, but another part knew getting involved with this family could complicate things for everyone. "I don't know, Emily, maybe. I'll be at the city park at the same time. If you want, we could go fishing together." "Emily, don't bother Robert," Dorothy gently scolded. "It's no bother, Dorothy. It was really nice meeting both of you." Robert said goodbye and left the house with mixed feelings. On one hand, it had been comforting to feel welcomed by them. On the other, he wasn't sure it was fair to get close when he was still wrestling with his own demons. As he walked home, Robert thought about their conversation. For the first time in months, he'd spent a few hours without dwelling on the mission that had gone wrong, the responsibility he carried, or the guilt that consumed him. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Robert slept better than he had in weeks. He dreamed of the innocence in Emily's eyes and the quiet strength of Dorothy. He woke the next morning with a strange feeling, the desire to leave the house. During the morning, he tried to stick to his usual routine of doing nothing. But around 3 in the afternoon, he caught himself glancing at the clock, remembering Emily had said she'd be at the city park at the same time as the day before. He tried to resist. He told himself it wasn't a good idea to get involved with that family. But by 4:30, he found himself walking toward the park, carrying a simple fishing rod he'd bought on the way. Emily was exactly where she said she'd be, sitting by the lake with her makeshift gear. "Robert," she called out when she saw him. "I knew you'd come back." "How did you know?" "Because good people always come back, and you're a good person." Robert sat beside her, assembling his fishing rod. "I brought a real rod for you to use," he said, handing it to the girl. Emily's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Really? For me?" "For you." She held the rod as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. "Grandma's gonna be so happy. She always said I'd get a real rod someday." Robert showed Emily how to use the gear properly. She was a quick learner, asking smart questions and paying attention to every detail. "Robert, why were you sad yesterday?" The girl's direct question caught him off guard again. Sometimes adults do things that hurt people without meaning to, and then they feel sad because they can't fix it. But if it wasn't on purpose, it's not their fault. "It's not always that simple, Emily." "Why not?" Robert looked at this child who could simplify the very things that had haunted him for months. "Because when you're responsible for something, you have to face the consequences even if you didn't want it to happen." "So what did you do?" Robert took a deep breath. Telling a child about the mission that went wrong wasn't appropriate, but he found himself wanting to share the weight with someone. "I was working in a place where there was a lot of rain, and the river was rising. It was my job to warn people to leave their homes before the water came. But I made a mistake in the timing, and some families couldn't get out in time." "What happened to them?" "They lost their homes, everything they had, because of my mistake." Emily was quiet for a moment, processing this. "But you warned them, right? You tried to help." "I tried, but it wasn't enough. My dad always said what matters is trying to help. He said sometimes bad things happen even when we do our best." The girl's words, echoing the wisdom of her absent father, struck Robert deeply. "Your dad sounds like he was a very wise man." "Yeah, he is a wise man," Emily corrected, keeping her words in the present tense. They fished in silence for a while. Robert watched the girl's focus, and wondered how a child could have so much determination and optimism in such a hard situation. "Robert, can you teach me other things besides fishing?" "What kind of things?" "Things my dad would teach me if he were here." The request felt like a knife to Robert's heart. She was asking him to take on a role he didn't feel capable of filling. "Emily, I don't know if I'm the right person for that." "Why not?" "You're in the US Army, like my dad, and you're nice. Being in the Army doesn't mean I know how to teach kids. But you already taught me how to fish, and yesterday you taught me that grown-ups get sad sometimes too." Robert realized he had naturally taken on a mentor role for that child. The discovery both frightened and moved him. "I'll think about it, okay?" "Okay," Emily agreed with a smile. At that moment, Emily's line tugged. She had hooked her first fish. "Robert! Robert! There's something here!" she shouted excitedly. "Easy, Emily. Pull slowly. No rush." With Robert's help, Emily managed to reel in a small golden fish. It was tiny, but to her it felt like she'd caught a shark. "I did it! I caught a fish!" she yelled, jumping with joy. The girl's pure happiness was contagious. Robert found himself genuinely smiling for the second time in months. "Grandma won't believe it. Can I take it to show her?" "Of course you can." Emily placed the little fish in her small tin with water and ran toward the house. Robert followed, carrying the fishing gear. Dorothy was in the backyard hanging laundry when she saw her granddaughter running toward her. "Grandma! Grandma! Look what I caught!" "Good heavens! A real fish!" Dorothy exclaimed, genuinely impressed. "Robert taught me, and he gave me a real rod." Dorothy looked at Robert with gratitude. "Thank you so much." Emily was so excited about fishing. "It was my pleasure. Would you like to have dinner with us tonight? I'm making spaghetti." Robert hesitated. 2 days in a row at their house was starting to feel like a habit. "I don't want to intrude." "Robert," Emily said, tugging his hand, "please stay. Grandma makes the best spaghetti in the world." "Emily's right," Dorothy confirmed with a smile. "And after your fishing success, I think we should celebrate." Robert finally gave in to the grandmother and granddaughter's pleas. The dinner was simple, but it was the best meal he'd had in months, not just because of the food, but because of the company and the warm atmosphere. During dinner, Emily recounted every detail of their fishing adventure to her grandmother, dramatizing each moment as if it were a grand expedition. "And Robert said tomorrow we can try to catch bigger fish," she said excitedly. Robert choked on his water. He hadn't promised that. "Emily, I didn't say we'd go fishing tomorrow." "But you're not coming." The disappointment on the girl's face was heartbreaking. Well, I can stop by, sure." "Yay!" Emily cheered. Dorothy watched their interaction carefully. She sensed something special happening, but also noticed Robert's hesitation. After dinner, Robert said goodbye and went home with even more conflicted feelings. He was enjoying Emily and Dorothy's company, but knew he couldn't get too involved. He was still dealing with his own problems and wasn't sure he could be a stable figure in a child's life. But for the third night in a row, he slept better than he had in months. The next day, Robert tried to break the pattern. He decided he wouldn't go to the park. He needed time to think about what was happening. He spent the day walking around town, visiting places he hadn't been to in a while. He ate at a different restaurant, went to the movies, tried to keep his mind occupied. But by 5 in the afternoon, he found himself at the park again. Emily wasn't there. Robert felt a pang of worry. She had said she'd be there. He decided to go to their house to check if everything was all right. He found Dorothy at the gate, clearly distressed. "Mrs. Dorothy, is everything okay? Emily wasn't at the park." "Robert, I'm so glad you're here. Emily is sick. She had a fever all night and hasn't gotten better today." "Is it serious?" "I don't know. It seems like a bad flu, but she's very weak." "Have you seen a doctor?" "The clinic only handles emergencies on weekends, and today's Saturday." Robert thought quickly. He knew a retired military doctor who practiced nearby. "I know a doctor who can take a look at her. If you'd like, I can call him." Dorothy hesitated for a moment, but her concern for her granddaughter won out. I'd be very grateful. Robert called Dr. Anderson, a doctor who had served with him on several missions. He explained the situation, and the doctor agreed to make a house call. While they waited, Robert stayed in the living room with Dorothy, who prepared teas and compresses for her granddaughter. Thank you so much for this, Robert. I didn't know what else to do. No need to thank me. Emily has become important to me too. Dorothy looked at him curiously. Can I ask you a personal question? Of course. What really happened to you? I mean, beyond what you told Emily. Robert sighed. He was starting to trust this woman. It's exactly what I told her, Dorothy. But what I didn't say is that one of the families who lost everything had children around Emily's age, and one of them was badly hurt in the flood. And how was it your fault? I was responsible for risk assessment. If I'd been more precise in my calculations, they would have had more time to evacuate. And then you started blaming yourself? I began questioning every decision I'd ever made. My ex-wife couldn't stand seeing me like that and asked for a divorce. I lost my job because I couldn't focus anymore. I lost everything. Did it get to the point where you thought about giving up? Robert lowered his head. Yes. I was at the city park thinking exactly that when Emily showed up. Dorothy was silent for a moment. You know what I think, Robert? I think Emily came into your life for the same reason you came into hers. How so? You both need each other. She needs a father figure, and you need to feel useful again. Before Robert could respond, Dr. Anderson arrived. He was a man around 60, serious-looking but with kind eyes. Robert, long time no see, the doctor greeted. Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for coming. Don't mention it. Where's the patient? Dorothy led the doctor to Emily's room. The girl was pale and breathing heavily. Hi, Robert, she said weakly when she saw him. Hey, kiddo. How are you feeling? A little rough, but now that you're here, I feel better. Dr. Anderson examined Emily carefully, checking her temperature, breathing, and throat. It's a bad flu, but nothing serious, he diagnosed. I'll prescribe a fever reducer and some cough syrup. With 2 or 3 days of rest, she'll be fine. Dorothy sighed in relief. Thank you, doctor. No problem, call me if anything changes. After the doctor left, Robert helped Dorothy organize the medicine and care for Emily. Robert, can you stay here until I get better? The girl asked. Emily, Robert has his own life, Dorothy said. Actually, I can stay, Robert replied, surprising himself. If that's all right with you. It would be a big help, Dorothy admitted. Robert spent that night at Dorothy and Emily's house, sleeping on the living room couch. During the night, he woke several times to check if the girl's fever had gone down. By morning, he found Emily feeling better. Robert, you stayed all night, she said excitedly. I did. How are you feeling? Much better. The fever's gone. Dorothy appeared in the doorway with a breakfast tray. How's our patient? Way better, Grandma. Robert took care of me all night. Not exactly, Robert said, embarrassed. I just checked on you a few times. Yes, you did. Every time I woke up, you were right there, Emily insisted. Over the next 2 days, Robert became a constant presence in the house. He helped Dorothy with the household chores, took care of Emily, and for the first time in months, he felt useful again. On the 3rd day, Emily was fully recovered and excited to go back to the city park. Robert, now that I'm better, can we go fishing again? Of course we can. And are you going to keep coming here every day? The question caught Robert off guard. Over the past few days, it had become natural for him to be there, but he hadn't thought about the future of this relationship. I'd like to keep coming if you both want me to. Of course we do, Emily exclaimed. That would be wonderful, Robert, Dorothy confirmed. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the weeks that followed, Robert settled into a routine with Emily and Dorothy. He spent mornings at home organizing his own life, had lunch downtown, and spent afternoons and some evenings with them. Emily became a skilled angler under his guidance. More than that, she started asking questions about math, geography, and history, subjects Robert knew how to teach thanks to his military background. "Robert, why do rivers flood when it rains too much?" she asked one afternoon. The question touched directly on Robert's trauma, but he was surprised to find he could talk about it without panicking. When it rains a lot, the water has to go somewhere. Rivers are like water highways. When there's too much water, they overflow. And then people's houses get flooded? Sometimes, yes. That's why there are people like me who study rivers to warn when it might happen. And you used to do that for work? I did. So you were really important then? I tried to be. You can still be important, Robert. You could teach other people how to do that work. The girl's observation made Robert think. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was still a way for him to use his knowledge to help others. One day, Dorothy got a call that changed everything. Robert was helping Emily with her homework when he heard Dorothy speaking on the phone in a shaken voice. "What do you mean? Are you sure? After 2 years?" Emily stopped writing and looked intently at her grandmother. "Okay, yes, I understand. Thank you for calling." Dorothy hung up and stood still for a moment, clearly processing what she'd just heard. "What happened, Grandma?" Emily asked. Dorothy looked at her granddaughter, then at Robert, unsure how to break the news. "It was about your father, Emily." "My dad? Is he coming back?" They found him." "Where was he?" Dorothy knelt down to Emily's level. "He was in a hospital very far from here. He got hurt on his mission and lost his memory for a while. But now he remembers us. Yes, now he remembers, and he really wants to see you." Emily fell silent for a moment, taking it all in. Robert watched with a heavy heart, knowing his place in their lives was about to change drastically. "When is he coming?" Emily asked. "In a few days. They're bringing him home." "Yay! My dad's coming back!" Emily cheered, but then her expression shifted. "Robert, will you meet my dad when he gets here?" "Of course, Emily, it'll be a pleasure to meet him." But inside, Robert felt a mix of happiness for the girl and sadness, knowing he wouldn't be needed there anymore. Over the next few days, Emily was beyond excited for her father's return. She could barely focus on anything else. "Robert, do you think my dad will like you?" "I hope so, Emily. He'll be happy to know you took care of me." "I didn't take care of you, Emily. We helped each other." "What do you mean? What?" "You helped me just as much as I helped you." "Actually, you helped me more. But I didn't do anything. You taught me that sometimes it's worth trying again." On Thursday morning, Dorothy received another call informing her that Emily's father would arrive that afternoon. The house was in a flurry. Dorothy cleaned everything obsessively. Emily organized her drawings and letters to show her father, and Robert prepared to say goodbye to the family that had changed his life. "Robert, are you leaving when my dad gets here?" Emily asked sadly. "I'm not leaving, Emily. But you'll need some time alone to reconnect. And then you'll come back?" "If your father allows it, I'd like to keep being your friend." "He will. I'm sure of it." At 3 in the afternoon, an official car stopped in front of the house. Robert was in the living room with Dorothy and Emily when they saw a man around 35 step out of the vehicle. He was tall, lean, and walked with a slight limp in his left leg. His dark hair had a few grey strands that hadn't been there before, and his face showed signs of exhaustion and hardship. Emily froze for a few seconds. The father she remembered was different from the man now approaching the house. "It's him, Emily," Dorothy said gently. "He looks different, but he's your father." Emily ran toward the gate. "Daddy! Daddy!" The man knelt and opened his arms. When Emily threw herself into them, he began to cry. "My little girl, look how much you've grown." "I knew you'd come back, Daddy, I knew it." Robert watched the emotional scene from inside the house, feeling a mix of joy and melancholy. After the initial reunion, Dorothy introduced Robert to her son. "Michael, this is Robert. He's been a great help to us." Michael looked at Robert with curiosity and gratitude. "Nice to meet you, Robert. My mother told me on the phone how well you've taken care of Emily. The pleasure is mine, Michael. Emily is a special girl. Daddy, Robert taught me how to fish and he helps me with my homework. And he knows everything about rivers, Emily said excitedly. Michael smiled, but Robert noticed something different in his eyes, a deep sadness he recognized well. Is that so? That's wonderful, sweetheart. For the rest of the afternoon, Robert stayed at the house to ease the transition, but he could tell Michael was clearly uncomfortable with his presence. That evening, after Emily went to bed, Michael asked to speak with Robert privately. Robert, I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for my family. No need to thank me. It was a pleasure. But now that I'm back, I think it's best if I take responsibility for Emily myself. Robert understood perfectly. Of course, I completely understand. It's nothing personal. It's just, I need to reclaim my place in my daughter's life. I get it, Michael, and I agree with you. Thank you. Robert said goodbye to Dorothy and went to Emily's room to do the same. Robert, aren't you coming back anymore? She asked worriedly. Emily, your dad's home now. You two need time together. But what if I want to see you? If your father allows it, you can always find me at the city park. Promise you'll be there? I promise. Robert left the house with a heavy heart, but knowing he'd done the right thing. Michael needed to rebuild his relationship with his daughter, and his presence might complicate that. For the next 2 weeks, Robert returned to his old routine. He spent his afternoons at the park, but Emily never showed up. He understood, but he missed the joy and purpose she'd brought to his life. One afternoon, he decided to stop by Mr. Jenkins' bakery, which Emily had mentioned as the person who taught her to fish. Mr. Jenkins? Robert asked the man behind the counter. That's me. What can I do for you? I'm Robert. Emily talked about you. Ah, Robert, the girl mentioned you. She said you taught her how to fish for real. How is she? I haven't seen her in a while. Mr. Jenkins' face grew concerned. Well, son, the girl stops by here now and then, but she's been a little down. Down? Why? From what I gather, her father came back different. Closed off, you know. The girl tried telling him about you, about the fishing trip, but he doesn't seem too interested. Robert felt his chest tighten. Did she say anything else about it? Said she wanted to see you, but her dad won't let her. Also mentioned her father just sits around all day, staring at nothing. I see. Look, Robert, from what the girl told me, you've been really good for her. Maybe you should talk to her father. Robert considered the suggestion. Part of him wanted to keep his distance to respect Michael's decision, but another part genuinely worried about Emily. Do you think it'd be appropriate? I think it'd be necessary. The girl's hurting, and from what I can tell, so is her father. That afternoon, Robert decided to go to Dorothy's house. When he arrived, he found Emily playing alone in the yard, while Michael sat on the porch, staring blankly. Robert! Emily shouted when she saw him running toward him. Hey, kiddo, how are you? I'm okay, but I missed you. Michael stood from his chair and walked toward them, clearly unhappy about Robert's presence. Robert, didn't expect to see you here. Good afternoon, Michael. Can we talk? Daddy, can Robert stay for dinner? Emily asked hopefully. Emily, go inside and help your grandmother, Michael said firmly. The girl obeyed, but gave Robert a sad glance before leaving. What do you want to talk about? Michael asked. About Emily, and about you. About me? Michael, I know what it's like to carry guilt. I know how it feels to think you've failed the people you love. Michael's expression hardened. You don't know anything about me. I know you spent 2 years on a humanitarian mission. I know something went wrong and you got hurt. I know you lost your memory and are trying to rebuild your life. And I know you blame yourself for being away from your daughter. Michael looked at him in surprise. How do you know that? Because I've been through the same thing, Michael. I was also on a humanitarian mission when I made a mistake that hurt innocent people. I carried that guilt until I almost gave up on everything. And what does that have to do with you being here? It has to do with the fact that your daughter saved me when I was about to give up, and now I see she needs help again. Michael was silent for a moment. She's fine. She has everything she needs. She has food, a home, clothes, but she doesn't have the attention of the father she waited 2 years for. I'm here. Being physically present isn't the same as being emotionally available. Michael bristled. You have no right to judge me. You don't know what I've been through. You're right. I don't know exactly what you've been through, but I know what Emily has been through. I know she waited 2 years for you, believing you'd come back. I know she kept every letter you sent like a treasure. And I know she's confused now because the father who returned isn't the same one who left. I can't go back to who I was before. No one's asking you to, but you can try to be a better version of who you are now. Michael sank into the porch chair and covered his face with his hands. You don't understand. I failed. Because of my decisions, people died. I should have died too. But you didn't. You survived. And now you have a daughter who needs you. She was better off without me, with you looking after her. Michael, I looked after Emily for a few weeks. You're her father. There's no replacing that. I don't know how to be a father anymore. No one's born knowing. You learn as you go. Michael raised his head and looked at Robert. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to help me? Because Emily taught me that it's worth trying to help people, and because I recognize in you the same pain I once felt. And how did you manage to overcome it? I haven't completely. I still struggle with guilt every day, but Emily taught me I can use my experience to help others, and that gives new meaning to the pain. Michael stayed silent for several minutes. I don't know where to start. Start by asking Emily how her day at school was. Start by asking what she likes. Start over, one day at a time. What if I say the wrong thing? You will. All parents do. But you can also apologize and try again. Just then, Emily appeared at the front door. Daddy, Grandma wants to know if Robert is staying for dinner. Michael looked at Robert and then at his daughter. Emily, come here. Sit with me. The girl walked over and sat on her father's lap. How was your day at school today? Michael asked. Emily's face lit up. It was so fun, Daddy. The teacher taught us about the planets, and I remembered you said in a letter you'd teach me about the stars. Really? Did you like the lesson? Yes. And I told the teacher my dad knows a lot about stars. Michael glanced at Robert with gratitude. You know what we're doing tonight? After dinner, we're going to the backyard to look at the stars. Really, Daddy? Really. And Robert can stay for dinner if he wants. Can he? Emily asked excitedly. Yes, he can. Robert had dinner with the family that night and later joined Michael and Emily in the backyard to watch the stars. It was touching to see father and daughter beginning to reconnect through such a simple activity. That one there is the Big Dipper, Michael explained, pointing at the sky. Where, Daddy? I can't see it. Here, look, he said, guiding her gaze. It's important because sailors used it to navigate. Like how Robert uses rivers to navigate? Exactly. Robert smiled, seeing how Emily naturally connected her father's lessons with what she'd learned from him. From that night on, Michael made more of an effort to be present in his daughter's life. Robert began visiting the family a few times a week, always respecting their space but serving as a bridge between them when needed. One day, Michael surprised everyone with a proposal. Robert, I've been thinking, you have experience with risk assessment in humanitarian missions, right? I do. And you said you wanted to use that experience to help people. Where are you going with this? There's an organization here in town that works on natural disaster prevention. They need consultants. Robert was stunned. Are you suggesting I apply for a job there? I'm suggesting we apply for a job there. Together. What do you mean? You have the technical knowledge. I have field experience. Together, we'd make a great team. The proposal caught Robert completely off guard. Michael, that's very generous of you, but no buts. You helped me reconnect with my daughter. Now I want to help you reconnect with your purpose. What if I make another mistake? What if you save lives? Robert, you can't let one past mistake stop you from helping people in the future. Emily, who was playing on the floor, looked up. Daddy, does that mean Robert will work with you? If he says yes. Say yes, Robert, please. Robert looked at their hopeful faces and felt it might be time to try again. All right, let's do it. Yay! Emily cheered. The following week, Robert and Michael reported to the city's emergency management agency. The coordinator, a man named George Wilson, was impressed by the two men's resumes. "You arrived at just the right time," George Wilson said. "We're entering the rainy season and we need a team to assess the city's high-risk areas." "That's exactly the kind of work we'd love to do," said Robert. "Great. When can you start?" "As early as tomorrow," Michael replied. Robert and Michael began working together at the Emergency Management Agency, developing risk maps and evacuation plans for the city's most vulnerable areas. It was rewarding to use their skills to protect people again. One day, while inspecting an area near the river, Michael remarked, "You know, Robert, a few months ago I thought I'd never do anything meaningful in my life again." "I know exactly how you felt. It's strange how sometimes the bad things in life end up leading to good ones." "How so?" "If I hadn't gotten injured on that mission, I never would have lost my memory. If I'd never lost my memory, I wouldn't have been away from Emily for so long. If I'd never been away from her, maybe you never would have come into her life. And if you'd never come into her life, maybe I never would have found a true friend." Robert was moved by Michael's words. "You've become a true friend to me too, Michael. And to be honest, I think you're more than a friend. You're family." That afternoon, when they returned home, they found Emily in the city park with Dorothy, trying to fish. "Daddy! Robert! Look what I caught!" she shouted, holding up a small fish. "Congratulations, sweetheart," said Michael. "It was with the rod Robert gave me," she explained proudly. "And where'd you learn that technique?" Michael asked, pretending not to know. "Robert taught me. He's the best fishing teacher in the world." "Is that so? What do you think about teaching your old man too?" "Really, Daddy, you want to learn how to fish?" "I sure do." "Then let's go. Robert, come help." The three of them sat by the lake. Emily took on the role of teacher, showing her father the techniques she'd learned from Robert. It was a perfect moment of connection. "Daddy, did you know Robert saved me the day we met?" Emily shared. "How so?" Michael asked. "He was really sad, almost falling into the water, so I helped him out." "Actually, Emily, you were the one who saved me," Robert corrected. "How? I just offered a branch." "Sometimes that's all a person needs, Emily. Someone to reach out at the right time." Michael understood the metaphor and smiled. "It's true, sweetheart. Sometimes people just need to know someone cares." "And now you're both my friends," Emily declared. "Forever," Robert promised. "Forever," Michael agreed. Months passed, and the friendship between Robert, Michael, and Emily grew stronger. Their work at the Emergency Management Agency was going well, and they'd already helped prevent several accidents during the rainy season. One day, Robert got an unexpected call. "Robert, it's Jennifer." Jennifer was his ex-wife. They hadn't spoken in nearly a year. "Jennifer, how did you get my number?" "I got it from your sister. I need to talk to you." "About what?" "Can I come over?" "Of course." Jennifer arrived at Robert's house 2 hours later. She looked different, more mature, like someone who'd done a lot of reflecting. "How are you, Robert?" "Good. Really good, actually. You seem it. You look much better than when we split. A lot has changed. I heard you're working again." "How'd you know?" "Tucson is a small town, and the work you're doing at the Emergency Management Agency has been making waves." Robert was surprised their work had gained recognition. "It's important work." "I know. And I'm proud of you for finding a way to overcome what happened." "Thank you." Jennifer hesitated before continuing. "Robert, I came here to apologize." "Apologize for what?" "For abandoning you when you needed support the most. A marriage should be about facing difficulties together, and I failed at that." Robert was surprised by Jennifer's sincerity. "Jennifer, you don't have to apologize. I understand how hard it was to live with me back then. Even so, I should have tried to help instead of giving up." "And why are you telling me this now?" "Because I've been through tough times this year too, and I understand what it's like to need support. And because seeing you now, I realize the amazing man I lost." Robert didn't know what to say. "Jennifer, I know it's too late, Robert. I know you've probably moved on. But I needed to say it. I appreciate your honesty, but you're right. A lot has changed. Is there someone?" Robert thought of Emily and Michael, the family he'd found. I have a family now. That's good. I'm happy for you. Jennifer said goodbye and left. Robert reflected on their conversation. A year ago, that visit would have devastated him. Now he felt at peace with the past and grateful for the present. That afternoon, he went to the city park to meet Emily and Michael. He told them about Jennifer's visit and how he felt about the past. "What matters is that you're happy now," said Michael. "It's true, Robert, and you make us happy too," Emily added. "You know you're the most important family I've ever had, right?" "We know," Emily said, hugging Robert. Autumn arrived, and with it, the first anniversary of Robert and Emily's reunion. To celebrate, they organized a picnic in the park, the same place where they'd met. Dorothy baked a cake, Michael brought sodas, and Robert arranged a special fishing trip. Emily was radiant with happiness. "Everyone, I want to make a little toast," Emily said, raising her soda cup. "Go ahead, sweetheart," Michael encouraged. "I want to toast because a year ago I gained a second dad. My daddy gained a brother, my grandma gained a son, and Robert gained a family." Everyone was moved by the girls' words. "Cheers," they said in unison. "And there's one more thing," Emily continued. "Robert taught me that sometimes people need help getting out of the water, and my daddy taught me it's always worth trying to help someone. So I've decided that when I grow up, I'll work helping people too." "That's a beautiful decision, Emily," Robert said, his eyes misty. "And will you teach me everything I need to know?" "We'll teach you everything," Michael promised. As the sun set over the lake, Robert looked at the family that had formed so unexpectedly and felt deeply grateful. A year ago, he'd been ready to give up on everything. Now he had reasons to live, to work, to dream. "Robert," Emily said, interrupting his thoughts. "Yes, kiddo? Do you still get sad sometimes thinking about the past?" "Sometimes, yes." "And what do you do when you're sad?" "I remember I have a very special girl who taught me it's always worth trying again." "And does it work?" "It always works." Emily smiled and went back to playing. Robert glanced at Michael, who was also watching his daughter tenderly. "Thank you," Michael said softly. "For what?" "For teaching me how to be a father again, for showing me it's possible to start over." "Thank you for teaching me. Family isn't just about blood, it's a choice." That night, after everyone had left, Robert stayed alone in the park for a few minutes. He looked at the lake where it had all begun and felt a deep peace. A year ago, that water had represented the end. Now it stood for a new beginning. When he got home, he found a letter that had been delivered during his absence. It was from the State Emergency Management Agency. Robert opened the letter curiously. It was an invitation for him and Michael to present their work at a national conference on natural disaster prevention. "I can't believe it," Robert murmured. The next day, he showed the letter to Michael, who was equally surprised. "Robert, this is amazing. Our work is being recognized at a national level. Do you want to accept?" "Of course I do. What about you?" Robert thought for a moment. A year ago, the idea of speaking publicly about his work would have terrified him. Now he felt ready. "I do. Emily's going to be so proud. And your mother too." When they told Emily about the invitation, she was thrilled. "You're going to be famous," she exclaimed. "We're not going to be famous, Emily. We're just sharing what we've learned," Robert explained. "Even so, I'm telling everyone at school that my dad and my second dad are heroes. We're not heroes, kiddo. You are to me. You save people." The conference took place 3 months later in New York City. Robert and Michael presented a paper on social reintegration of veterans in disaster prevention activities, based on their own experience. The presentation was a success. Many people were interested in the project and asked to replicate it in other cities. "Looks like we'll have a lot of work ahead," Michael remarked on the way back. "Seems like it. Are you ready for that? With you and Emily by my side, I'm ready for anything." 2 years had passed since that first afternoon in the city park. Robert had officially become Emily's godfather. Michael had found a new girlfriend who adored the girl, and Dorothy remained the family's pillar. Their work at the Emergency Management Agency had expanded. They now coordinated a program training other veterans to work in disaster prevention across various cities in the state. One day, during a routine inspection, Michael said, "You know what's funny, Robert?" "What?" "I spent 2 years lost, with no memory, not knowing who I was, and now I feel like I'm living the best phase of my life. It is funny how things work out." "What about you? If you could go back in time and avoid the accident that brought you all that guilt, would you?" Robert thought carefully before answering. "You know that's a tough question. Part of me would want to spare those people from suffering, but another part knows that if it hadn't happened, I'd never have met Emily, never become your friend, never discovered I could help people in a different way." "I get it. The scars we carry sometimes make us able to help others with similar scars. That's a beautiful way to see things." That afternoon, they returned home and found Emily in the backyard, now 12 years old, helping Dorothy tend the garden. "How was work today?" Emily asked, as she did every day. "It was fine. How about school?" "We learned about aquatic ecosystems. And guess what I told the teacher?" "What?" Robert and Michael asked in unison. "That I know 2 river experts and that one day I'm going to work with them." Robert and Michael exchanged glances and smiled. "And you really want to work with us when you grow up?" Robert asked. "I do. I want to help people like you do." "Then you'll need to study hard." "I know. And you'll help me, right?" "Always," they both promised. That night at dinner, Dorothy made an announcement. "I have some news to share." "What news, Grandma?" Emily asked. "I got a call from the Neighborhood Association. They want to honor Robert and Michael for the work they're doing in the city." "What kind of honor?" Robert asked. "They're naming the new square they're building near the river after you." Robert and Michael were speechless. "Wow, this is too much," said Robert. "You deserve it," Dorothy affirmed. "You saved so many families with your prevention work. And I get to say I know the people a square is named after," Emily cheered. The square's dedication ceremony took place a month later. Many families who had benefited from their prevention efforts attended to show their gratitude. During his speech, Robert looked at Emily in the crowd and said, "3 years ago, I was lost, without purpose, without hope. That's when a 10-year-old girl reached out and changed my life forever. She taught me that sometimes we need help to get out of the water, and sometimes we're the ones who must reach out to someone drowning. Everything I've achieved since then comes from that simple but powerful lesson." Emily was moved in the crowd, proud to see her second dad being honored. After the ceremony, the family returned home for a private celebration. Emily had baked a cake with Dorothy's help, and Michael had arranged a surprise. "Emily, I have something for you," Michael said. "What is it, Dad?" Michael handed his daughter a sealed envelope. "What's this? Open it and see." Emily opened the envelope and found bus tickets to the beach. "Tickets to the ocean?" she asked, confused. "Remember I promised I'd take you to see the ocean?" "I do. Well, it's time. Next vacation, we're all going together." "All of us?" Emily asked, looking at Robert and Dorothy. "All of us," Michael confirmed. "After all, we're family." Emily jumped for joy, hugging her dad, then Robert, then her grandmother. "It'll be the best trip ever." A few weeks later, the family was at the beach in Santa Monica. Emily couldn't contain her excitement seeing the ocean for the first time. "It's so much bigger than I imagined," she exclaimed, running toward the waves. Robert and Michael followed, keeping her safe. "Dad, Robert, look how the water sparkles." "It's beautiful, sweetheart." "Can I go in?" "Yes, but be careful." Emily spent the whole day playing on the beach, building sandcastles with Robert's help, and learning about tides from Michael. That evening, as they walked along the shore, she remarked, "You know what's funny?" "What?" they asked. "It all started with water. I found Robert by the lake. Dad got hurt because of the rain, and now we're all here enjoying the ocean." "That's true," Robert agreed. "Water connected our stories. And now we're making new memories with water," Michael added. "I love our family," Emily declared. "We love you too," Robert and Michael said together. On their last night, while Emily and Dorothy slept, Robert and Michael talked on the hotel balcony. "You know, Robert, Sometimes I wonder where we'd be if we hadn't met. I think about that too. I probably wouldn't be here. And I'd still be drowning in guilt. But we found each other, and look at us now. It's amazing how one kid could bring two broken people together and make a strong family. Emily's always been special. From day one, she saw possibilities where adults only saw problems. And she still does. Yesterday, she told me she wants to study environmental engineering to work in natural disaster prevention. She'll be amazing at whatever she does. She will, with the example she's had. The example she's had is her own. We're the ones who learned from her. On the flight home, Emily fell asleep on Robert's shoulder. Michael watched them and whispered, "You know she sees you as a father, right?" "I know, and it's the greatest honor of my life." "You saved my family, Robert. Your family saved me first." Back in Tucson, life returned to normal, but with a new energy. The trip had strengthened the bonds between them even more. One day, Robert received a call that would change everything again. "Robert, this is Colonel Richards from the State Emergency Management Agency." "Good afternoon, Colonel. I have a proposal for you. How would you like to coordinate a national program for veteran reintegration?" "National?" "That's right. Your work has caught attention in Washington, D.C. They want to replicate the project across the country." Robert was speechless. "Would that mean moving to Washington, D.C.? "Not necessarily. You could coordinate from where you are with occasional travel." "Can I talk to my partner and get back to you?" "Of course, but don't take too long. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Robert told Michael about the proposal. Both were excited, but also worried. "It's an incredible opportunity," Michael said. "It is, but it would mean a lot more responsibility." "And are you ready for that?" "With you by my side, I am." "What about Emily? How will she react?" "We'll talk to her." That night, during dinner, they told Emily and Dorothy about the proposal. "Does that mean you'll be famous all over the country?" Emily asked. "Not exactly, sweetheart," Michael explained. "It means we'll be helping more people. And I think it's amazing. You'll save families across the whole country. But it would mean more trips, more time away from home," Robert added. "It's okay. I understand you have an important mission." The maturity of the girl, now 12 years old, impressed both men. "Are you really okay with this?" Michael asked. "Yes, Daddy. You taught me it's important to help people. And if you can help more people, then you should." Dorothy, who had been silent, finally spoke. "I agree with Emily. You both have a gift for helping people. It would be selfish of us to keep you just for ourselves." Robert and Michael exchanged glances, moved by their family's support. "Then it's decided," Robert said. "We'll accept." "Yay!" Emily cheered. "My dad and my second dad are going to be national heroes." The national program launched 6 months later. Robert and Michael traveled across the country training teams, but always returned home on weekends. A year after the launch, the program had already helped hundreds of veterans find new purposes in life. On one of these trips, Robert called Emily as he did every day. "Hi, kiddo. Hey. How was school today?" "Hi, Robert. It was great. I gave a presentation on disaster prevention and talked about you. How did it go?" "Everyone was impressed. The teacher said you're an example for the country." "She's exaggerating." "No, she's not. You really are examples." "And you? How are your studies?" "Good. I have high grades in all my classes, especially in science and math." "That's great. Keep it up." "Robert, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you still feel sad sometimes?" The question caught Robert off guard, as always happened with Emily's direct questions. "Sometimes I do. Why?" "Because I wanted you to know that you make me very happy, and that I'm really proud of you." Robert felt his eyes fill with tears. "Thank you, Emily. You make me very happy too." "Robert." "Yes. I love you." "I love you too, kiddo." When Robert hung up, Michael noticed he was emotional. "Everything okay?" "Better than okay. I just received the greatest declaration of love in my life." "From Emily?" "From Emily. She has that gift of moving us with her simplicity. It's true. She can sum up what really matters in just a few words." "And do you know what really matters?" What? Love, family, purpose, everything she taught us to value. 5 years had passed since that first meeting in the city park. Emily was now 15 and had grown into a determined and caring young woman. Robert and Michael continued coordinating the national program, which had become an international benchmark. They had written a book about their experiences and traveled the world giving lectures. But what made them most proud was watching Emily grow and thrive. One day she came home with news. "Guys, I have something to tell you." "What is it, sweetheart?" asked Michael. "I got accepted into the school's exchange program." "Exchange to where?" asked Robert. "Canada. I'll spend 6 months studying environmental engineering there." Robert and Michael were proud but also worried. "Sweetheart, are you sure you want to go?" "Yes, Dad. It's an amazing opportunity." "And you won't miss us?" asked Robert. "I'll miss you so much. But you taught me that sometimes we need to step out of our comfort zone to grow." "That's true," agreed Michael. "We're so proud of you. And will you come visit me there?" "If we can, absolutely," promised Robert. The farewell at the airport was emotional. Emily hugged each of them for several minutes. "Take care," she said. "You take care too," replied Michael. "And remember, if you need anything, just call," added Robert. "I know. I love you. We love you too." During the 6 months Emily spent in Canada, Robert and Michael kept in touch with her daily. She was adjusting well and learning a lot. One day, during a video call, she shared a revelation. "You know what I found out here?" "What?" they both asked. "Your work is known even here. My risk management professor knows your program." "Really?" asked Robert, surprised. "Really. He said you're pioneers in the field. I was so proud." "And how are your studies going?" asked Michael. "Great. I'm learning new techniques you might be able to use in the program." "That's awesome. You're becoming an expert," said Robert. "I'm trying. I want to be ready to work with you when I come back." "Emily," said Michael, "you know you don't have to work with us if you don't want to, right? You can choose any career." "I know, Dad. But this is what I want. I want to continue the work you started." Robert and Michael exchanged glances, moved by Emily's maturity and determination. When she returned from her exchange, she brought new ideas and an international perspective on disaster prevention. "You know what impressed me the most out there?" she said during the welcome dinner. "What?" asked Dorothy. "How respected your work is internationally. You really created something special." "We didn't do it alone, Emily," said Robert. "It all started with you." "What do you mean?" "You taught us that it's worth trying to help people. The program was born from that lesson. And now you're ready to take that lesson even further," added Michael. The following year, Emily graduated high school with the best grades in her class. She had been accepted into several universities to study environmental engineering. During the graduation ceremony, she was chosen to give the class speech. 15 years ago, she began, my father went on a mission to help people. He got hurt, lost his memory, and was away from home for 2 years. During that time, my grandmother and I were cared for by the kindness of a welcoming neighborhood. Robert sat in the audience, moved as he watched the young woman he had once known as a 10-year-old girl. When my father came back, he was lost, carrying guilt and pain. That's when our family met another man, also lost, also carrying guilt and pain. And you know what happened? They helped each other find a new purpose. The audience hung on every word. Today, these two men coordinate a program that has already helped thousands of people across the country. They taught me that it doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is how many times you get back up. And they showed me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is reach out to someone in need. Emily looked directly at Robert and Michael in the crowd. That's why I dedicate this graduation to my father, Michael, and to my second father, Robert, who taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's a choice, and that true love is what helps us grow and become better people. The audience rose to their feet in applause. Robert and Michael had tears in their eyes. After the ceremony, Emily ran to hug them. "Are you proud of me?" "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it," Robert said. "We're overjoyed." "You've become an incredible woman, sweetheart," Michael added. "I learned from the best." That evening, during the graduation celebration at home, Dorothy raised a toast. 5 years ago, we were a broken family, a lost man, an absent father, a waiting child, a worried grandmother. Today we're whole, strong and united, and all because a 10-year-old girl decided to reach out to a drowning man. Cheers, everyone chimed in. And the best part, Dorothy continued, is that our story is just beginning. Emily started university the following semester. She chose to stay in Tucson to remain close to family while studying environmental engineering at a top-tier school. On weekends, she joined Robert and Michael for some of the program's activities, learning hands-on about disaster prevention. One day, during a risk assessment inspection, she made an observation that impressed them both. Have you ever thought about adding environmental education in schools as part of the prevention program? How do you mean? Robert asked. If kids learn early about environmental risks, they can help protect their own families. That's a brilliant idea, Michael said. And how would you implement it? Robert asked. By creating educational booklets, games, fun activities, making environmental education engaging for kids. Robert and Michael exchanged glances, struck by Emily's maturity and creativity. How about we develop this idea together? Robert suggested. Really? You'd let me help with the program? Emily, you're not just our daughter, Michael said. You're our natural successor. In the following months, Emily designed a pilot environmental education project implemented in Tucson schools. The success was immediate. Kids loved the activities, and teachers noticed students were more environmentally aware. The project caught national media attention, and Emily was invited for interviews. How did you develop this project? A reporter asked. By watching my father and godfather work. They taught me prevention is always better than reaction, and education is the best prevention. Do you plan to pursue a career in this field? Yes, I want to continue the work they started, but expand into education. Your parents must be proud. They are, and I'm proud of them too. 5 years passed. Emily was in her final year of college, and her environmental education project had become an official part of the national program led by Robert and Michael. She wrote her thesis on environmental education as a tool for natural disaster prevention and was about to graduate. Then one day, Robert got a call that would change everything again. Robert, it's the Secretary of Environmental Affairs. I have a proposal. I'm listening. How about the three of you coordinating an international disaster prevention program? 3. You, Michael, and Emily. Her work has gained international attention. Robert was speechless. Would that mean working for the United Nations? Exactly. Based in the United States, but coordinating projects worldwide. Robert asked for time to discuss it with Michael and Emily. That evening, during dinner, he shared the proposal. Guys, this is amazing, exclaimed Emily. It really is, agreed Michael. But it's also a huge responsibility. And do you think we're ready? Asked Robert. More than ready, said Dorothy. You've spent the last few years preparing for this. And working together would be a dream come true, Emily added. Then it's decided, said Robert. We'll accept. A year later, Robert, Michael, and Emily were coordinating disaster prevention projects in 15 countries. Emily had specialized in international environmental education and was recognized as one of the most promising young experts in the field. One day, during a mission in Costa Rica, Emily remarked to Robert, "Remember the day we met?" "How could I forget? You saved my life that day." Sometimes I wonder how different our lives would be if I hadn't gone to the city park that afternoon. I wouldn't be here, that's for sure. And my dad would probably still be lost in guilt. And you wouldn't have had a second father. And the world would have lost all the lives you've saved through the program. Robert paused and looked at the 25-year-old woman who had grown into someone extraordinary. You know what amazes me most about you, Emily? What? At 10, you saw possibilities where adults only saw problems. And at 25, you're still doing the exact same thing. I learned from you that there's always a solution, even when everything seems hopeless. Actually, you taught us that. That night at the hotel, Robert called Michael, who was on a mission in Panama. How was your day there? Very productive. We managed to implement the project in 3 more schools. And Emily? Incredible as always. She has a unique way of connecting with children. It's true. She still carries that childhood purity, but with the wisdom of someone who's grown. Robert, have you ever stopped to think about how we got here? I think about it every day. 15 years ago, we were 2 lost men, burdened with guilt and pain. Today we're coordinating international programs, saving lives, making a difference in the world. And all because a 10-year-old girl decided to help a stranger. That girl became the most incredible woman we know. And our daughter. The following month, the family gathered in Tucson to celebrate the 15-year anniversary of Robert and Emily's first meeting. Dorothy, now 85 but still active, had prepared a special party at the city park, the very place where it all began. 15 years, said Emily, gazing at the lake. It feels like yesterday, and an eternity at the same time. To me, it feels like yesterday, said Robert. I still remember perfectly the moment you held out that branch, and I remember thinking you were just a sad adult who needed help. And you were right, said Michael. He did need help, and so did you. And now look where we are, said Dorothy. A family that works together, loves together, and makes a difference in the world together. And let's not forget we still have a lot of work ahead, Emily reminded them. True, agreed Robert. But now we know we can face any challenge together. Because we're a family, Michael finished. The best family in the world, declared Emily. As the sun set over the lake, as it had thousands of times over the past 15 years, Robert gazed at the water that had once represented an end, and now stood for endless new beginnings. Beside him, Michael held his daughter's hand, now a grown woman, but to them, she would always be that brave little girl who believed everyone deserved a second chance. Dorothy watched her 3 children with the pride of someone who had seen a family form in the most impossible way, made possible through love. Do you know the most beautiful part of this whole story? Emily asked. What? The 3 replied in unison. It's that it's not over yet. We still have so many lives to save, so many families to help, so many dreams to fulfill. That's true, Robert agreed. Our story is just beginning. And it always will be, said Michael. Because true love never ends. It just changes and grows. That night, for the last time, they fished together in the lake where it all began. But this time, they were no longer a lost man, an absent father, and a waiting child. They were a complete family, fulfilled and purposeful. Robert, Emily said as she adjusted her fishing line. Go ahead, kiddo. Thank you for accepting my help that day. Thank you for offering it. And thank you both for teaching me how to be a father again, Michael added. And thank you 3 for giving me the most beautiful family in the world, Dorothy finished. As the stars began to appear in the sky, reflecting on the calm surface of the lake, the family kept fishing, talking, dreaming, because they had learned that the best moments in life are the ones shared with the people you love. If anyone had passed by that night and seen that scene, a happy family fishing under the starlight, they might never have guessed it had all started with a man ready to give up on everything and a little girl who chose to reach out. But Emily knew, Robert knew, Michael knew, Dorothy knew. They knew miracles don't just happen, they happen when people choose to love, to help, to believe, and to never give up. And they knew that no matter where life took them from there, they would always have each other. They would always have that lake, that story, that love. They would always be a family. The end. So, what did you think of this touching story? Do you believe small gestures can completely transform lives? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories like this one. Your support means everything in helping us bring more heartfelt and uplifting content.